Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. About a week gone in September now, on the 6th day of September 2018. And first graphic here, satellite imagery. There are no watches, warnings, or advisories for weather or rivers or streams, and I don't believe there's even any for the marine areas at all. But there is an upper level disturbance coming down. We had a couple of surges of moisture coming through. This one dropping quite rapidly southeastward, breaking up here in the Gulf of Alaska, but holding together a little bit better as it crossed the Alaska Peninsula, clipping Kodiak Island. And then areas of light rain showers and precipitation here over the eastern interior. This batch coming down, actually, and also this right through here, a little bit more significant moisture with that, with amounts of over half an inch reported in some areas here on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then that trailing back to very light amounts as that crosses the Pribilof, just a few hundredths of an inch. High pressure back to the west, and we've got a weakening band of moisture pushing into the western Aleutians today with a narrow band. Actually getting in toward the Adak area, they picked up about 2/100ths of an inch from that today, so it's quite weak and mostly just clouds and drizzle and low visibilities out to the west toward Shimia. Up to the north, colder temperatures resulted in some snowfall today along the eastern Arctic coast, but the bulk of the cold air kind of shifting eastward, so still rain this afternoon and a Tuvik, but amounts up to about maybe a 1/4 inch falling, or roughly 2/10ths of an inch up along the eastern north slope, drying out back here to the west behind this band right through here. And then the southeast coast looking pretty good, as well as the Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, Madawaska-Susitna Valley today, seeing some sunshine after some areas of light rain pushed through south central Alaska with this first batch of moisture here. We may get some showers with this next one coming in tonight, but today, pretty nice afternoon, temperatures pushing 70 in some locations of the Susitna Valley. Very nice day here across the southeast coast. Seeing some clouds creeping across the Dixon entrance area in association with this next front down to the south, but temperatures rising into the lower 70s here over the southern panhandle today at 3 p.m. AKwx 70 degrees, Shelter Cove 72 degrees, and temperatures near 70, approaching 70 at Hoonah and Gustavus, and mid-60s in the Juneau area with sunshine and that same pattern right up in across Skagway into Canada here, and some showers developing here along the Alaska Range and to a much lesser extent to the south, but some of that will develop south of the Alaska Range this evening as that upper level low drops southward. And otherwise, areas of light rain occurring over the central interior. A little bit heavier over along the eastern border there, roughly the Eagle area and maybe to the north, with roughly a 1/4 of an inch falling in the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Again, up here on the eastern Arctic coast into the north slope and actually the Brooks Range, central and east side, areas of rain or snow depending on your location as well as your elevation and time of day today, with temperatures hanging actually upper 20s to lower 30s along the eastern Arctic coast and the north slope areas, with snow falling there and fog, but that beginning to taper off, shift off to the east, dry this afternoon over toward the central coast there as high pressure builds in. Pretty good surface high, 1,030 millibars. Another center out here that's roughly the same, even though I left the pressure off of it, it's roughly around 1,028, 9 or 30 millibars as well. And the northerly flow in association with this on the eastern side of that high and the western side of that low, pulling a good surge of moisture here, 7/10ths of an inch falling today. Now again, a 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. at Nelson Lagoon. Cold Bay picked up about 1/3 of an inch of rain, and lighter amounts here across Bristol Bay, and mostly less than 1/10 of an inch, or just a few hundreds here with some showers and mostly cloudy skies over the southwest interior, on up roughly into areas of the Kuskokwim Valley locations, and out to the west, high pressure right through here ridging, with that weak trough cutting in between the two high centers here, but again, amounts were very light. And this weakening front, again, really no significant winds, no significant precipitation, but it did drop the ceiling's visibilities down quarter-mile at times this afternoon. Visibility, rain, fog, and drizzle, or mostly just drizzle and fog and low clouds out at Shimya. And not quite as bad, though, but still carrying about 2 to 3 miles at AKwx at times, with 0.02 of an inch being reported there. For tonight, you'll see this high shifts eastward, and warmer air surging in also, or warming, not surging in, but warmer air pushing westwards. So mostly looking at just, may start out as snow or continue to see some light snow along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, but that'll tend to mix with rain and also taper off as the night wears on. Low clouds and fog back to the west through the Chukchi Sea, Bering Strait under this high, massive area of low clouds, fog, and IFR. And these weakening bands of moisture could bring possibly another round of light rain or drizzle to the Pribilof Islands on down into the western Alaska Peninsula. This front here continues to actually hold together. Can't weaken much more than it is now, but there'll be a narrow band of precipitation with that. Again, mostly focusing on the central Aleutians, another one developing back to the southwest there in toward the main low center. And this front here probably spreading rain across Dixon Entrance this evening. Looking for it to arrive or make landfall in Annette, Ketchikan in the southern areas around midnight at, well, midnight give or take an hour or two or less. And that'll slowly spread northward, staying dry in the northern areas. Scattered showers again. Look for probably some showers shifting across south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula again tonight, Copper River Basin. Definitely along the Alaska Range. Showery up over the central upper Tanana Valley into the southern upper Yukon Valley. And then for tomorrow, right along this frontal boundary, which just about lines up with the Alaska Range there, isolated showers for the Talkeetnas, scattered showers along the central Alaska Range here with some clouds, drying out, becoming mostly sunny south central Alaska. Again, another nice day, Madanuska-Susitna Valley, and becoming sunny, or mostly sunny, increasing sun for the Prince William Sound area and the North Gulf Coast. And that front, really, the first surge washes out here and leaves a band of light rain or drizzle here across the central and southern panhandle, but the main thermal gradient back down to the south along this next developing occluded front there that's mostly affecting the Queen Charlotte Islands. Easterly wave comes into Kodiak there, actually the upper level low dropping and intensifying here over the western Gulf of Alaska. So that'll probably likely bring some moisture into Kodiak, and offshore flow results in sunshine right out to the southwest coast and beyond here, and also along and south of the Alaska Peninsula. Low clouds and fog continue out over the Bering Sea. And for the Saturday outlook, looking like this, high pressure, no change really for the Bering Sea. You got a warm front coming over the top of that high. And again, that'll bring probably IFR to low IFR from the Bering Strait, maybe St. Lawrence Island, across the Chukchi Sea, and possibly reaching the western Arctic coast late in the day. Otherwise, off to the east, dry. Sunshine here over much of interior Alaska, from the eastern border all the way down into Kuskokwim Bay, and again off the coast of that northeast wind flow. Pretty light though, nice conditions here for the Alaska Peninsula. Sunshine for Kodiak, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound. Isolated showers, far eastern Alaska Range, and that's just a threat at the most. Rain trying to push up into the Aleutians. Probably will reach Atka, Adak, on over to about Kiska, with not much in the way of any significant winds. And then the southeast coast here, still some lingering showers will be lingering. Prince of Wales Island and maybe over toward Hyder and Stewart, with just a slight risk up toward Petersburg and Wrangell. Look for it to be partly sunny. Port Alexander, Mount Edgecombe, Sitka, on up into the Juneau, Haines, Skagway area. And sunshine will be more dominant, as I mentioned, along the North Gulf Coast. This area of moisture probably won't get into the southern areas until sometime either Saturday evening or overnight at this point in time. So moving on to temperatures, lows for tonight. Looking like this, mid-40s, lower 50s here for the Panhandle, and mid to upper 40s south central Alaska, dropping into the mid to upper 30s in Tanana Valley, lower 30s along the eastern border, upper 20s to as low as 23 tonight at Anatuvik, and upper 20s there, which some stations are at currently. So don't look for a drop in temperatures there near the frost point for Point Barrow, and upper 30s warming as you head back to the west there. Otherwise, 40s for the or actually looks like the mid-50s for the central Aleutians, and upper 40s for the Bering Sea. And then the highs for tomorrow, Friday afternoon, back into the 60s, maybe mid to upper for the Susitna Matanuska Valley as well as the Kenai Peninsula. Ski Lac Guard Station today was 72 degrees this afternoon. Probably won't make it that warm tomorrow, but it'll still be pretty nice, well into the 60s, upper 50s, lower 60s, Bristol Bay. And Panhandle looking at some cooling down south there today by possibly as much as 10 degrees and to a lesser extent in the north. Lows the following morning, 20s becoming a little more widespread here. It looks like Eagle, low 23 degrees, mid to upper 20s on up into the Brooks Range. Milder though along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Looks like a lower to possibly mid 30s to lower 40s in the west side, then near 50 there around Cape Lisburne and Point Hope. 40s here, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, and 30s to mid 40s south central Alaska with lows again on the mild side, lower 50s there for Atakatka, otherwise upper 40s. Highs Saturday afternoon, again nice 60s south central Alaska, a couple of very nice days coming up. Again, pushing upper 60s possibly in the Susitna Valley, Big Lake, and areas to the north. And 60s for the most part, lower to mid for the Panhandle. Some areas holding maybe in the upper 50s or lower 60s. And you can see warming along the eastern Arctic coast there, 40 to 45 in the east side. Lower 50s back to the west, as well as Kotzebue Sound, Selawik Valley into the Kobuk Valley. Mid 50s for the Tanana Valley. Lower to mid 60s here for Bristol Bay, and mostly in the 50s for the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, big area IFRs. There has been out here over the Bering Sea, but well off the coast. In fact, VFR out to the east side of Nunivak Island there, Bristol Bay, Togiak Bay, southwest and western interior, eastward into the upper Yukon Valley. Then you pick up the marginal VFR here from just north of the White Mountains. And it becomes IFR, Tanana Valley, especially in toward and along the east or the northern slopes of the Alaska Range. Marginal VFR down to the Talkeetnas, northern Prince William Sound. IFR right at the entrance of Prince William Sound. Into the Gulf, VFR, IFR, southern Panhandle, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Tomorrow afternoon, marginal VFR here now along and mainly on the north side of the Alaska Range in the afternoon, kind of improving throughout the day. And VFR to the south, VFR to the north, all the way out to the Arctic coast. Looks like all VFR tomorrow afternoon, except for the Cape Lisburne and Point Hope area, as well as the Bering Strait, back into the IFR St. Lawrence Island, and just southwest of the Pribilofs, all the way out to Shimei and Attu, eastward to Nikulski. Kodiak Island here, marginal VFR on the east side, otherwise VFR. And then for Saturday morning, looking really good here throughout all of the interior. Maybe some marginal VFR there over the eastern Alaska Range area and some scattered areas here on the southern southeast coast, as well as Fognak Island. But IFR still stretching up or southward, southwestward here from the Bering Strait, down across St. Lawrence Island, much of the Aleutians and a good portion of the Bering Sea, but good VFR here along the southwest coast, Bristol Bay, and the Alaska Peninsula. And then for Saturday afternoon, some marginal VFR there, say from possibly Wainwright eastward to around Dead Horse and a little bit into the North Slope, otherwise really good conditions. Brooks Range southward to the Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island, and we've still got IFR out here from the Bering Strait, staying west of the Pribilofs down into the central Aleutians. And the Panhandle Gulf of Alaska looking pretty good, but marginal VFR here down over the southern areas. Passes Anatuvik, VFR tomorrow, as is Adigan, pretty good VFR throughout the entire day. And Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR, but rainy, starting out marginal, becoming VFR, probably during the morning and maybe by mid-morning possibly, but windy taking a little longer on to become VFR. And Isabel, marginal VFR becomes VFR, but looking at the northern entrances, staying marginal, and in Mentasta, IFR to start becomes probably no better than marginal VFR throughout the afternoon. And Tanita, marginal VFR, trending or will become VFR, as well as same trend for Portage, becoming VFR. Chilcoot and White, VFR the entire day. Freezing levels, cold air dropping southward, and this early tomorrow morning, very early tomorrow morning, like around 4 or 5 a.m. And look at the 6,000 feet now down into southern Alaska, 2,000 feet into the upper Yukon Valley, and about 8,000 across the Panhandle. Roughly a big area, 12,000 foot freezing levels here, Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And icing threats here, just some very isolated areas of moderate mixed type icing here in the shaded areas with maybe a little bit better chance of some light icing, but above 7,000 feet in the Panhandle, about 6,000 feet here across the Kenai Peninsula, and just possibly 10,000 feet or above here for the eastern Aleutians. Upper level wind flow chart with those high freezing levels due to this upper level high here over that area, over the Bering Sea. Northerly flow, this upper low really today an upper trough developing will cut off as a low here as it gets into the western Gulf of Alaska. Tomorrow afternoon, it's going to push the jet whale to the south, and so this southerly jet should stay east of the Panhandle. And then for 9,000 feet northeast flow, 20 to 35 knots here across southern Alaska, ridging lighter winds in the central interior. Westerlies only 10 to 15 on the Arctic coast. Easterlies 15 to maybe 20 knots there for Dixon entrance. Stronger out over the western Aleutians where 3,000 feet, maybe up to 35 knots in advance of the front. Light under the ridge, which also has an access into the interior. Northeast 15 to 25, southern Alaska. Westerlies at 10 on the Arctic coast. As far as turbulence goes, pretty smooth here for the Panhandle, Gulf of Alaska. But along the Alaska Range, light to isolated moderate chop and considerable moderate chop here in northeast Bristol Bay, as well as the Aleutian Range and the southwest mountains there, but pretty smooth for the Bering Sea. And after the break, I'll be back for the look at the marine forecasts.
Follow the wandering moon.
Hey there, stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Plow Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. We're here to help you find your way around the sky. Has this ever happened to you?
You're outside on a clear, dark night, and you look up and you see the moon. But wait, there's something next to it, a weird star.
If it's a really bright star or a suspiciously dazzling light, chances are you've spotted a planet.
But which planet is it?
This question and many more we will answer.
Let's head to the sky. Okay, we have our sky set for just after sunset on the night of September 10th, looking toward the west. As the sky darkens, a few things pop into view.
If you have a clear view of the horizon, you might spot the slimmest waxing crescent moon trying to shine through the sunset. If you can't see the moon on September 10th, don't worry, it'll be easier to spy later that week.
But hopefully you should be able to see a strange and stunning star above the horizon. It's no star. Not only is it far brighter than any star in the sky, it won't twinkle as much as a star.
It is a planet, but which one? Let's see what it looks like in a telescope, and maybe that will offer us a clue.
Wait a second. Looks like a mini moon.
That's no moon. It's actually the planet Venus. It goes through phases like the moon, since it is coming between us and the sun. So right now it looks like a crescent through telescopes.
So cool.
So you can easily identify Venus in the sky without the moon's help, but let's go forward in time to September 11th and then September 12th.
Each night the moon will have shifted toward the east. What you're seeing night after night is the slow progression of the moon orbiting the Earth. Each night it seems to move about 13 degrees across the sky.
After about a month, or what Dean likes to call a moonth, the moon has completed its 360-degree orbit and is back where it started.
Thanks for using my word moonth, by the way, in a sentence.
Anytime.
And as we change the sky to the evening of September 13th, the moon has shifted near another bright, non-twinkling star. You guessed it, it's another planet. And once you identify it, you certainly won't be stupider.
It is Jupiter, largest planet in the solar system, 88,000 miles in diameter and keeper of 69 moons and a great red spot.
This is what it looks like in a good telescope. You can see the disk of the planet, stripes bracketing its equator, and up to 4 moons lined up in various configurations.
Not a bad view. It's now 9 p.m. and we're facing south. As it gets darker, 2 more planets will pop out, but maybe we can get the moon over here to help identify them.
Piece of cake. We just need to advance our date to September 14th, 15th, and on September 16th, the moon will slide to the right of a bright yellow light that doesn't twinkle very much.
If you miss it on the 16th, the night of the 17th puts the moon even closer to our mystery planet, and it is a planet. To the naked eye, it doesn't stand out, but as we zoom in with a telescope, we get this stellar view.
It's Saturn, the most breathtakingly beautiful thing you can see in a telescope.
But don't get lost in Saturn's beauty, Dehne. We have one more stop on September 18th, and the moon will leave Saturn, and on the 19th, it will be in conjunction with the red planet Mars.
Very cool. And Mars is still really bright. Once you identify these planets, you can watch them every night this month, even if the moon isn't nearby. Man, what a tour of the solar system. And the moon can be your guide. Look for the moon near Venus on September 12th,
Near Jupiter on September 13th,
near Saturn on the 16th and 17th,
and close to Mars on the 19th.
and that's just for half a month.
Exactly. Who knows what else you'll discover when you
Keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Not a lot of change here. You can see from the last several days this area hanging tough here along and off the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And around Kaktovik, ice about 1.5 miles offshore, and then even closer and actually gets into the coastline or hugs the coastline as you get over toward Kaktovik, and then pulls back obviously here away from the coast as you head west. And really winds north today go west to south or swing around as in advance of another system. And it's going to be kind of a changeable pattern wind-wise for the next several days. So really not looking for much change in this configuration of the sea ice, again, for the next 5 days. On to the coastal water forecast. Southeast 20 on the south coast, east 20 here, central coast, northeast 15 4-foot seas, north side. Lynn Canal, winds swinging around to the north, 20 knots, and seas 4 feet due to the falling pressures with that next system coming up from the south. Northeast 10 for Stevens Passage, and then southeast 20 for both Clarence Strait and, as I mentioned, here on the south coast. And then for Saturday, east 15 for Clarence Strait, northeast 20 for Stevens Passage. Even stronger winds coming into Lynn Canal there, northern Lynn Canal, sustained 30 knots with 6-foot seas, and then east 20 on the south coast, northeast 15 to 20 on the north coast. Prince William Sound, light north winds tomorrow at about 10 knots, seas pretty slight, 2 feet. Northeast 15 to 20 here for the North Gulf Coast. Into the Barren Islands, 20 knots from the northeast, 5-foot seas. North 20 knots for Kamishak Bay. And small craft advisories for Southern Cook Inlet, going for 25-knot winds tomorrow, 20 knots north of the Forelands with 7-foot seas. And then the outlook for Saturday, a little lighter on the winds, northeast 20, north of the Forelands becoming northerly, south of the Kenai area, and north for Kamishak Bay as well as the Barrens. Northeast 15 for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, north at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Bristol Bay, north 20. And it looks like small craft advisory winds from Kodiak Island out of the north-northeast to predominantly northerlies from Sitkinak all the way to Cape Sarachev, and on the north side there, north at 20 with 5-foot seas. And then for the Saturday outlook, Alaska Peninsula, north 15 knots, Bristol Bay, north 15 knots, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, north at 20 knots, as well as Shelikof Strait and Kodiak Island out of the north at 20 knots, 4 to 6-foot seas. Fox Islands, on Alaska Island, north to northwest 15 to 20, and then lighter here for Unmak Island, picking back up to 20 knots out of the southeast. Again, that really weak boundary here, sort of back just to the west of, or very close to AKwx, so nothing more than 20 knots ahead of that, and then east 15 back to the west. And for Saturday, no big winds, maybe up to 25 though. Small craft advisories there for the areas south of AKwx and Atka in that zone. Northeast 15 for the far western zone, northeast 15 to maybe 20 knots out of the east-northeast for the Fox Islands. And for the west coast, small craft advisory south of Nunivak Island, 25 knot winds there, but pretty light out of the northeast, both for the Pribilof, St. Paul, St. George, St. Matthew Island, all northeast at 10. Southwest 10 for St. Lawrence Island, but Norton Sound north 15, as well as the areas north of Nunivak Island. And then really light winds, light and variable for Norton Sound, southwest 15, St. Lawrence Island, northerlies 10 to 20 along the southwest coast, strongest south of Nunivak Island, northeast 15 for the Pribilof, and about 10 knots for St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, kind of variable wind condition there. Far eastern coast, eastern zones there toward demarcation point northwest at 15, south 10, pretty light on the east side here. Central coast picking up to 20 knots all the way down to Cape Thompson. Cape Thompson south to the Straits, south at 15. And then stronger winds coming into the areas here for Saturday, south 20 knots for the Chukchi Sea, and then Cape Thompson south 25 for small craft advisories, turn southwest for the west side. Central coast coming down about 20 knots out of the southwest, and then west-southwest 15 for the eastern coastline. And for tonight, upper level low dropping southward, and that's going to enhance the rainfall and showers here for Kodiak, more clouds, and also probably a surge of showers will come across south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, definitely along the Alaska Range, lingering north of the mountains there, and decreasing precipitation on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Rain spreading northward into the Panhandle, but this front washes out. Another one develops farther to the south, but lingering rain in the central areas. Becoming sunny here, southern Alaska, and that continues into Saturday, first day of the weekend, looking really good over the interior from Kodiak to the eastern Arctic coast. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.